I'm not even in the frame.
I'm never in the frame on my pictures. Just doesn't happen.
The Williams bear. Right. Let's quickly dive onto PewTube and make sure that we are working.
We are. I've just got a notification.
Hey. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the F1 Failcast 2019 season review. Here, both on Hyphen Games on YouTube and with the most mercurial person I know, Mr. Mr. Definitely Zero. How you doing?
We got there in the end. I'm excellent. I'm really happy to be reviewing the end of season. We've been a bit crap at being live on time, but we're here. We're only 1 week and 10 minutes late. So, mwah, chef kiss. Chef kiss.
Ah, we're fine.
Are you actually in the lobby? Or
I'm in the lobby. I just forgot to ready up. Sorry.
There we go.
I'm readying up now.
So those watching on my stream will note that I am dressed very stylishly in my Toro Rosso cap. Let me show that to you. And my Toro Rosso zip-up thing that makes me look fat because it's a bit form-fitting. It's designed for athletes, and I'm not one. Also joining us though is our new mascot.
Yeah, Mr. Failington Bear, we have named it. Williams were doing a 75% off deal. Thank you very much for telling me that on Twitter. And I ordered... it's in the other room. You can't see me on the frame anyway. I'll dive out between sessions. So I got a George Russell cap. None of that Polish guy. And then I got two different types of T-shirts. One that was like the proper full-on like blue of this livery, and one where it's black with the lightning blue around it, because they were the two that kind of made me go ooh.
Same. So we know who we're playing as next season.
Yeah.
Just to cut you off for a moment. I don't know how. If you're watching back on my stream at any point, and I urge you to do so because you have to see this. My Failington Bear is a derp. A complete derp. You'll see that his eyes are wonky and one is bigger than the other. I don't know why.
Is yours hoodie up or hoodie down?
He's hoodie up at the moment, but even if I put him hoodie down, it does not help because he just looks a bit special.
Mine doesn't look too bad. I suppose the eyes do look a bit wonk, to be fair. But it's what made me laugh was the Frank Williams, I'm slightly pissed off, Patrick Head's going to get sacked mouth. It also reminds me of when you go to Christmas and you're like, I shouldn't have had that last Brussels.
Yeah. It looks like he's got gas.
Yeah.
This stream beverage is the Red Bull White Edition, coconut and blueberry. I haven't had a Red Bull in months, so this is a special end of season treat for me.
# Black Red Bulls matter. What flavour is white? Dare I ask?
Coconut and blueberry. It's the one I told you to try.
It's
amazing.
Crumbs. Yes, sorry.
Right, let me get rid of this cap because it's doing my fucking head in now. So, we've reached the end of another season. Not a Failcast F1 season, just another real season. Less interesting, obviously.
Naturally.
And it's been tradition over the years of the podcast to give out a few cheeky awards. So, I have taken the liberty of drawing up a few shortlists for our categories, and I welcome your additions. And I thought we could talk about the merits of each one and make some conclusions and see what other people think.
Okay.
But before we get into that, some stories to tell.
Oh.
So I was telling you before we went live, but the people won't have heard that. I have got myself a PSVR and concluded massive waste of money. The only thing I'm confident of is that I will enjoy Job Simulator, but given that game is like 3 years old and everyone's played it, I already know what's in there, really.
Surgeon Simulator.
So I'm a little disappointed, and I'm curious if at any point Cody's are going to put in VR support for F1, because they've got it for Dirt Rally, but you have to pay extra for it. Stupid. Other news that's been going on. We've already discussed Failington Bear. All the F1 teams are having a clearance sale on this year's merchandise. Some of it's quite nice. I'm enjoying this Toro Rosso shirt. This is the most comfortable one they've made, I think. So, if you are in the market, now is the time. This is the first year I haven't done my annual price check on merchandise. But actually, as far as I can tell, for what it's worth, the gap isn't actually that large between most of the teams. So, you can't really go too far wrong. Because for once, even Alfa Romeo Sauber have reasonably priced gear.
What?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's sold out, but, you know, that's what you get, end of season, cheapskate.
Yeah.
Anywho, quite a season, I think most people would agree. Considering that it started so... I want to say ambiguously, like it felt like it could have gone any which way, really. I mean, no one quite knew how well the Red Bull Honda thing was going to work out. Turns out, spoiler alert, very well. But it did look realistically like it was Ferrari's year, and possibly even Charles Leclerc's year from the early races. But then we settled into that so boring period of Mercedes dominance that has become de rigueur over the last decade or so. And it felt, you know, sort of between, you know, round 3 and 10, like, oh god, here we go again. And I felt like I was probably going to give up watching, actually, some episodes. Because it was easy to review them with you, because I already knew how they'd gone without watching them. So, I felt like, okay, this is going to be a season to forget, but we're just all sitting tight and waiting for the formula change. But actually, it turns out there were some belting races, and that brings us to our very first category, which is Grand Prix of the Year. Now, I have a few suggestions out of the bag. Now, the one that leapt to my mind first of all was Germany.
Yes.
Now, I don't know about you, I enjoyed Germany very much, mainly because it made a fool of some of the top drivers and allowed the field to shake up rather dramatically and for us to get some interesting results. Now, it's a shame that we need weather to get that to happen, but it would put me very much in mind of the old Malaysian Grand Prix, if you remember.
Yes, they did like a deluge there.
Yeah, where, you know, all of a sudden, surprise, monsoon out of nowhere, Michael Schumacher's in the barrier.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I think there's there is a. It reminds me of Bernie's sprinkler system, and maybe that it wasn't quite such a crazy idea after all.
No, it does put. I mean, particularly once the formula stabilises the way that it has, I think there's probably some merit to it. Now, as aficionados of the sport will recall, the race didn't start, I felt, especially dramatically, but it was the way that a lot of the mistakes were not concentrated into a short burst, but it seemed to be like a constant gradient of fuck-uppery. And of course, one of the key fucker-uppers was, if I recall correctly, one Mr. Nico Hlkenberg, who threw away his first podium.
Yet again.
Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes. Probably sealing the deal of him not getting a seat for 2020.
Yeah, if that deal hadn't already been firmly done in Cyril Abitibabul's brain,
Yep.
it probably would have been then. See, for me, I kind of feel like it's cheap to have this as a nomination because the reason it's in there is that it didn't go the way anyone expected. But at the same time, the best races do tend to be that way. It just feels cheap because the weather did it rather than a sudden turn of speed from a team where we maybe didn't expect them to be so quick. And it tends to be, actually, I found, Toro Rosso, who over the years have been that team, hasn't it, really?
Yeah,
They're the ones that dull, 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 shit hot, dull, 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 dull.
Yeah.
Because, it's not like they're banging rocks together. They know how to build a car. It just seems they only know how to build a car that operates correctly when the stars are aligned and the track has a certain gradient and temperature is exactly between 25.5 and 25.6 degrees. But it does always, throw things up. However, it was nice to just in general see so much of the grid shaken up. Robert Kubica, of course, picking up his solitary point of the season and Williams' solitary point.
Much to my chagrin.
Yeah.
Just a random shout out, because we've not seen him for a very long time. Legend of Rhino is in the chat saying he's actually made a stream for once. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And hello, Manor as well. Long time. I completely agree with that. However, I think it was one of those races where it was difficult to understand what was going on all the way down the field, and they've had this question on the F1 Voice place that we was on, and Germany kind of was the big runaway winner, followed by Brazil. And I would argue that Brazil was boring until the safety car, which was utterly unnecessary, but provided entertainment anyway. And I was like, don't go down this NASCAR route, F1. Don't do it. Don't do it.
No.
Did you have a particular recommendation? Because I have one on the tip of my tongue, if you would like me to reveal.
Please. I've got a short list in my mind, but please, by all means.
So my other one that I would like boring, quote-unquote, typical race would be Austria. And that was...
that's a surprise. That's a surprise to me. Why would you nominate Austria?
Because of the difference in tyre strategies that meant that Leclerc and Verstappen would basically be in the same place at the same time come the end of the race, and it was down to aggressive overtaking on the track / barging them off the track to make sure that it all came together. I'm a big fan, and I constantly bang on about we should have all 3 tyre compounds in the race. Anything to switch up, not doing a one-stopper, because the more different strategies you have, the more overtakes and the more different layers that you have of things coming together. And Austria, at least at the front for me, kept me entertained to kind of thumbs up or paws up, if we're the Failington bear, to go for that. But no, that's kind of the one that popped out in my head, but I'd be interested to know what your shortlist is.
So, also featuring on my shortlist, I actually had Bahrain. Now, for me, it's not necessarily going to go down as an out-and-out classic. However, it sticks in my mind purely because of the emotion that it stirred up. And that's what the sport's all about, right? It's about those moments that you remember. It's still one of my favourite races is Hungary 97, because Damon Hill, favourite driver, in and arrows, favourite car, on course for a podium, car fails him. I was so sad, but the memory is just seared into my mind, and it's part of why I love the sport.
The trauma.
Yeah. And I think Bahrain has something of the same quality, because we all wanted to see Charles Leclerc light a fire under Vettel, because it was clear that Vettel had become complacent, that Kimi Räikkönen was not a threat to him consistently, and so Vettel wasn't delivering his best.
Yeah.
And not only did Leclerc light a fire under him, but seemed to, at least in the early part of the season, to just consume him.
Fire. Yeah.
Yeah. So you come out from qualifying where Leclerc suddenly looks sensational. Into the race, Leclerc does everything right, but the team does not. And
oh, Ferrari
again. And so I would say that is a contender for me for race of the season, simply because it brought a spark of excitement at the start of the season where it felt really like anything could happen.
Yeah.
Because it didn't feel like it was a fluke by Leclerc. It didn't feel like a flash in the pan, and as we saw over the season, it really wasn't. but for them to come into that Grand Prix and for a guy who'd only been in the sport a year to just put his stamp on the team just a little bit and show that he wasn't simply going to be Vettel's number two. And he was able to deliver something as impressive as that on his second Grand Prix. I mean, the whole package for me made that a memorable race from the season. I think I'd find it hard to make the case it was the best race of the season, but it's certainly an honourable mention on that basis for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, another Grand Prix that I did enjoy. I mean, you've already mentioned Austria, and I agree that stuck in my mind because of the Leclerc-Verstappen battle. They're two drivers that I want to see go head-to-head more often, because I think that's got the potential to be the most entertaining battle at the moment. Because Hamilton, for all his faults, is just in a world of his own, and it seems that Ferrari just aren't capable of taking it to Mercedes consistently. But Leclerc and Verstappen seem to actually be reasonably closely matched in two different cars, and at least on occasion. And if I can request one thing for next season, it will be for those two to be put in a position where they're fighting it out at the front more often. Because I don't really expect to see Bottas make for exciting racing with either of them. Vettel and Hamilton has been sort of the go-to rivalry for the past few seasons, and Vettel has kind of shown to me that he just doesn't have enough. And when I say enough, I don't necessarily mean enough talent. I think he's perfectly capable. I think there's something about his mentality and the headspace he's been in that makes me think, okay, he's not going to be the guy in this car to deliver the wheel-to-wheel action consistently against Lewis that we all want to see.
I don't know if he can remember how to do wheel-to-wheel action at all. Would be my review. You can tell I've had some alcohol. I completely agree, actually, that 2020, if I want more of the same of stuff, it's more of the changing of the guard, so to speak. And there's a couple of drivers that kind of flip into the middle of like the changing of the guard that came in the middle, but it's very much the clear out of stop us wishing for Alonso, Mid-Liberty Media. I've seen that in the news, that they're desperate to get Alonso in at Mercedes, get Hamilton to Ferrari. No, I don't, because they seem to think this will bring box dollar money in. I don't want Alonso anymore. I didn't miss him this year because the talent of new drivers is so much punchier and more exciting that I've already moved on. And he was down the end of the field for a couple of years anyway. Sadly, time is cruel. Time to move on now. So for me, 2020 is more about this changing of the guard, so that when 2021 comes in and we've got quote-unquote new rules, all right, Renault, then I want that changing of the guard almost to be complete, and whether Hamilton's about as part of that or not is one thing. Vettel I don't think will be, personally. Raikkonen, who knows, but he'll be mid-grid. But then we've got the Verstappens, the Leclercs. I don't think Bottas will be part of that crew necessarily, although I think he's got patent speed. I don't think he can cut it at the top of the grid, so I think there's the potential for a Norris and Sainz there for McLaren snipping at the heels. You've got Russell and Ocon, Ricciardo, who's kind of like in that weird middle section where he's not quite one guard or the other, and that for me really excites me about where F1 goes in the future. And I'm all about, I like my mainstays, but I'd quite like a bit of a clear out, particularly because there's only 20 cars on the grid.
No, me too. It's time to clear out the dead wood, and we've done our usual and gone completely off topic, but I would like to definitely say that for me, that the Lewis to Ferrari deal seems like a done deal. Seems like it's done.
Just chat for a few minutes. I've thrown my drink everywhere.
like that is basically what's going to happen, and for me, it kind of makes sense. It's a big team. It's a team every driver wants to represent. The way all parties in that discussion have been talking, and there has been a lot of discussion. Tells me that the deal is on, because even Toto Wolff sort of seems resigned to it happening. Now, other than that, what I don't like is the Lewis and Charles Leclerc pairing, because to me that's again putting someone in Leclerc's way for no reason I can truly appreciate.
To stop him being the number one / leader of that team. Yeah.
Yeah, which is, you'd think, given how he's compared to Vettel,
yep,
that's the natural progression, right?
I would say he's earned his number one slot already.
Yeah, and then, learn from this and say, okay, Ferrari doesn't normally go for young drivers. It's worked very well this time. Leclerc number one, bring in someone young. Not Giovinazzi, but someone.
No.
else.
Can we just say Albon's been knocked out in Q1 in a Red Bull, but Kubica in the Williams has got through? Pardon?
Oh, Codemasters.
Okay.
Oh, Codemasters. Oh, well. And, another reason I think that I wouldn't like to see Alonso dragged back is there's so much talent that could step into that Mercedes seat.
Yeah.
It's also a door back to the front for some drivers who've fallen on hard times. Daniel Ricciardo leaps to mind. I don't really see him as a Mercedes driver, but you'd have to say he'd be a fair consideration for that team.
I see him more Ferrari bound. If anyone like a Seb Vettel doesn't quite get through to 24.
On the Bottas note, though, I agree with you. I don't think he's number one material at the front of the grid, but if you want a harmonious team and you've got a clear number one,
yes,
I think he's shown he can do enough, and that's obviously why he's still at Mercedes.
Yeah.
Anyway, back on topic, because we will get to all this. Another Grand Prix for me that I'd like to suggest as one of the highlights of the season would definitely have been Italy.
Yes.
Not solely because of the result, but because the on-track action was genuinely good as well. Now, Charles Leclerc was a bit of a naughty boy at that Grand Prix, I will concede, but seeing him and Lewis duke it out the way they did over such a distance, and then to have the fairy tale ending of the hot new Ferrari driver putting Ferrari back on top at Monza, like the whole package for me. I can still, if I close my eyes now, I can still see him on that podium, all the confetti raining down, everyone going completely mad. And I remember thinking at the time, I thought, 20, 30 years from now, that's going to be a clip on a DVD of like historic moment. It's very rare that you feel a moment in F1 as being truly, truly historic, something that will be genuinely looked back upon. But that was one for me, even though. Again, the race is probably not going to go down amongst the very best. It's a combination of factors. It's the location, it's the fans, it's the driver and where that driver is in his career and how early he's got to Ferrari and how important it is for them to win there. That built the narrative.
And I think you can arguably, maybe this is peering off into a potential future, but you can almost pin that down as this was a turning point for how Ferrari then look to go racing in the future. If it becomes a like Ferrari renaissance from 2021 onwards, you can almost pinpoint that specific race as that was where they won, that is where they held off Mercedes, that is where Leclerc did not play the team game and showed that actually he was the leader, I guess. There's all different narratives that you can pull out from that one.
Now, do you have any other races? Because I remember like the middle of the season or like early, late season, we actually had a run of really good races.
Yeah.
So it's become a little hard for me to sort of pick out many individual highlights because it felt like we had a good long run actually of all the races being good.
They are, but they kind of start bleeding into each other. And I guess for me, it's the kind of season review for me ends up becoming a God, I love the midfield, because that was where most of the races racing that I enjoyed was really, really good. Someone's put in the chat Silverstone was good.
Yes, that was on my list as well. I enjoyed Silverstone very much too.
Manna, thank you. Hope you're well. Completely agree. And it was essentially after France, all the way till and except for Abu Dhabi, I think each race was pretty much decent or had something going on that would keep you entertained or guessing, even if it wasn't necessarily on track action. It was around how strategy would pull together, and I'd argue that they're still interesting races. It's just interesting from a different point of view, and we know that Formula One may not necessarily always agree that strategy races are interesting or exciting because it doesn't give them the on-track moments as much, but it's kind of it's a different battle, but interesting.
So based on what we've discussed so far, if you had to cast your vote, and chat, feel free to play along, and we'll check the comments on the people who don't watch live as well. If you had to vote for your race of the season, which track would you give it to? Who do you think provided the best Grand Prix?
I'd still say Germany. That is one of those. It was up there with the Canada 2010s or 2012s, whichever one it was. 2012, Brazil 03, Spain 96. It was up there with those crazy ass races, and makes me want to secretly put ice rinks around various different corners on circuits.
I'm not going to agree with you, although Germany would be my number two. See, for me, it's difficult, but I think actually I'm going to give it to. It's between Brazil or Monza for me, but I'm going to give it to Monza. I am going to give it to Monza.
The feel good,
because it just gave me this the little taste of what was to come, and it gave me the happy ending that you very rarely get in Formula One.
Completely agree. And to be fair, the chat that's live, Mana's gone for Germany, Rhino has gone Germany for entertainment, but Monza for the actual racing. So I think
we have a tie so far.
We're cloud praisers.
We have a tie. Well, we will leave that. We'll put that on the shelf for a moment. We'll always come back as feedback comes in. I want to move on now to Drive of the Year. So obviously, as the name would suggest, we're going to be discussing specific events where a driver really brought something special to the table. Now, I'm going to go backwards through the season in this case, because the one that's obviously going to stick in most people's minds, Carlos Sainz, Brazil. Starting from the back of the grid, driving up to fourth on merit in a McLaren before being promoted to the podium. But I mean, driver of the day material all the way through. You didn't see much of him on the TV. It kind of flew under the radar, as much of Sainz's career has, unfortunately. But definitely a career-defining drive. Certainly the best drive of his career to date, and I think for me a vindication of both him and McLaren, showing that both of them mean business. That actually it's been a match made in heaven as far as we can tell this season, because they've just sort of reinvigorated each other. I've messed up my differential and I don't know what the setting was, but
you're not being a smooth operator.
So for me, that's the one that's freshest in my mind. But I don't really want to give it on the basis of it being the one I most recently remembered, because there were some genuinely amazing drives all the way through the year. Now, another that I would like to put forward would, again, boring I know, would be Charles Leclerc at Bahrain. Commanding, confident, just totally in charge. I have balls that lap. It's alright, I'm going to go round again. Cool-headed, commanding, totally in charge. One with the car in a way that he didn't really achieve again all year. And he was only let down by the car. So I don't really want to, I don't really want to discount the drive based on the fact that the team let him down. I understeered a little bit there. My differential settings are messing with me.
Apologies, because I thought you said driver of the year, not driver of the year.
No, drive.
Sorry. So there's a couple for me. I completely agree with the Carlos Sainz one in Brazil. I think that was particularly special. However, there was a couple earlier on in the year where he was coming home in fifth, and I think it was France was one where they were like specifically fourth best team and it was looking really juicy. So that was really good. There's quite a lot of when Gasly was back at Toro Rosso. I don't know what it is with that specific car and him, but they gel so well and it makes it so frustrating that he was just absolutely nowhere in that Red Bull.
He actually beat Albon on points at the end of the year, didn't he?
Yeah. So that was interesting. And actually, random side note, there's a good YouTube channel called I think it's called F1 Statistics, and they put everything into freeze frame bar graphs, and they've got one where it shows you the points over the course of a season. And you can see that Albon hardly scored anything at Toro Rosso, and then it's only when he's actually in Red Bull that he actually starts to score anything at all. Which is why his drives kind of seem a bit strange, because we clearly knew that he was very good, but he wasn't actually converting to many points. What else interests me?
I would like to propose actually Alex Albon at Spa. Because I know he had many drives where he had a penalty or he was starting way down and then he brought it up to the top six. Mm-hmm. The reason Spa was so special is because he did that, but it was his first time out in the car.
Yeah, and he still got up to sixth, I think it was, by the end of the race, wasn't it?
Yeah, sixth or seventh, as I recall. And even though, again, as I say, he repeated that feat a few times over the course of the season, it was so special for me because no one expected it, first of all. It was a new car, a totally new setting for him. And while it wasn't a scintillating drive, and there was parts in the middle of the race where I thought, oh, his pace doesn't look very good. I don't think he's gonna get into the points. He did struggle with the car in the middle stint. Mm-hmm. He delivered by the end, and that's really what matters. So it wasn't like a drive that necessarily set the world on fire, but he did more than was expected by a significant margin by the time the flag fell. And to do that he said he felt like there was no pressure really because he didn't have anything to lose, just something to gain, which is probably a good way to look at it. But still, that is a pressure cooker seat to find yourself in. And even if you give yourself 4 or 5 races or maybe even a half season to find my feet, so no stress, you kind of know that that's not really how Red Bull operates. And let's not forget that Pierre Gasly, who was complaining about this again this week, by the way, I don't know if you saw that in the news, was whinging Helmut Marko told me I'd get to see out the season, and that my seat was safe until Abu Dhabi, and they didn't keep their promises, and apparently they promised to develop the car in a direction that suited him better, but then never bothered. And I sort of had no sympathy for him at that point because I was like, do you really think, looking at how they treated Webber and Vettel when they were together, or even Verstappen and Ricciardo, do you really think that you, a guy who has failed to deliver pretty consistently over the course of the year, is going to have any say at all on how they develop this car?
Exactly.
Like no, definitely not. Now, it is interesting to see, as you say, how much better the Toro Rosso suits him. But setting that aside, him finding his feet again in the Toro Rosso for me is not something that I'm going to credit as a driver of the season. Even if he did get that podium, he outdragged a Mercedes. So I don't want to take that away from him, but it somehow to me doesn't feel as significant a drive as it does seeing Alex Albon seize an opportunity with both hands.
So how would you say then, because Rhino's just popped in the chat and I agree, Kvyat's podium at Hockenheim was very impressive and I agree. Which podium of the Toro Rosso driver is the better drive? Kvyat at Hockenheim or Gasly at Brazil?
I don't know. What I do know is I'm going to be out in Q2 because Charles Leclerc ruined my lap.
No.
Yeah, I have qualified 12th.
It's a 7th.
At best.
Boo, that shit.
It's my own fault. I didn't go out early in the session, and then I screwed up my lap on the mediums twice. And then I was on course for a good lap, but Leclerc wouldn't get out of my fucking way. And, well, you know how it is when you're following. Like, you brake too early into the corners and you're just off the pace. So, never mind. But it's been my worst season so far, this.
It has. It's not been the schmoove of Shailings. My other shout out would be George Russell in Hungary, doing a very good job in that dog shit car. And
yeah, I was going to say Russell at Hungary, definitely a highlight for me, even though it didn't really amount to much, did it? But still, like, hell of a drive.
Yeah. I don't particularly have like a drive of the season that I can really ping out off the top of my head. There's like some really, really notable ones. I'd probably maybe go for Carlos Sainz at Brazil and be really basic and beat basic bitch, but I can't think of too many others where I'm like, nah.
Daniel Ricciardo had some good drives.
Yep.
In a very poor, by all accounts, Renault. Where was it? He finished 4th. I wish I'd brought my notes with me.
I was going to say Monza, but that's where they both retired from the top 6.
Yeah. He finished like 4th or 5th. It wasn't Singapore, was it?
Might have been.
God, crap.
Monza, says Banner.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, like, by the mere fact that we can't really fucking remember, that makes it hard to sort of credit that as the one we give the award to, and
because it's under the radar again. It's almost like if you don't see like the dramatic overtakes, you almost forget that it happened, and because that car is only ever going to go backwards or be on its own because it's not a top tier, you kind of have to sing out from underneath stuff. Oh, I've just noticed it's actually raining for the race. Bollocks.
Robert Kubica is 9th.
Yes, I know. Redonk.
What the fucking hell is going on?
I know they've got a Mercedes engine, but come on, game.
So, also though, I do want to give an honourable mention to Sergio Perez.
Oh yeah, a couple of good 7ths.
Yeah, let's be honest. Perez he's had an up and down season, a very mercurial season. I don't think it's fair to I don't think it's unfair to say that. But when he's brought it out, he's really brought it out.
Second half of the season, especially, yeah.
Yeah. And I tell you what, I'm feeling more and more confident about Racing Point's potential next year because even Lance Stroll has been looking a little feistier here and there.
Lance frustrates me so very much because there is clearly, like, there is talent there, and the more he hangs about, the more I kind of go, oh, okay, yeah, you're pretty poor at qualifying sometimes, but in the race he can kind of make it back up again and be on pace. But he desperately needs to sort out qualifying, because he's not one of the best overtakers in the business either, so they always have to put him on weird strategies where he can then make something of it afterwards when he's out in clear air. And I think that might be more of a detriment come 2021 if overtaking is actually going to be a thing.
Yeah, that's true. Incidentally, speaking of Racing Point, have you heard of the rumour that has been doing the rounds that Aston Martin are moving to Racing Point?
Yes, because Daddy Stroll is looking to buy some meaty steaks in the old Aston Martin, which will be interesting, because they was sniffing around the old Red Bull, weren't they? And I don't know, they would be an interesting tie-up. I wonder what their thoughts of all of this branding stuff is, given that it's not really helped Alfa Romeo shift any cars. And it hasn't.
No, it hasn't. But I mean, to be honest with you, I think the premier sports car brands get more out of it. Alfa Romeo is, still a premium brand, but it's not. For me, it's not on the same level as Aston Martin or Ferrari, or it's somewhere in the mid tier. That said, no, it just makes a lot of sense, because I think the whole Aston Martin, Red Bull, Honda is a fucking mess. Because when you look at the car, you just see Aston Martin. The Honda branding is fairly minimal on the Red Bull car. But then, whenever a win happens, Aston Martin is obviously not mentioned. So it seems like having two car manufacturers that are, to a limited extent, in competition behind your team and on your car is actually making it a bit shit for both. And Honda's the partner that matters as far as Red Bull are concerned. So for me, Leclerc, 5-place grid penalty, collision with Grosjean. So I mean, I'd love to see Racing Point rebranded as Aston Martin Racing. It's just difficult to figure out. You've got the same problem again, right, with the engine supplier. That's all.
Yeah.
Still, back onto the old topic-a-roo. Yeah, I mean, if you had to have a short list, it would definitely be Daniel Kvyat's podium, Carlos Sainz in Brazil, Charles Leclerc for me in Bahrain, George Russell at Hungary. And I hate myself for it, because I said deliberately at the outset I don't want it to just be the ones that are freshest in my mind, but it really, for me, has to be Carlos Sainz. Just because it was so comprehensive. It wasn't a flash in a pan either. It was sort of a natural culmination of a trajectory he'd been on all season.
Yeah.
He's just constantly getting it done. Fifth. And then, the icing on the cake is to get a podium from the back of the grid. And given where McLaren were just 12 months ago, I just can't see beyond it. I just cannot see beyond it. And I hate having it feel so open and shut like that, but for me it just is. How are you feeling about that?
I completely agree. Carlos Sainz's podium is my drive of the season. Oh man, don't Aston use Merc engines? I don't know, if I'm honest.
No, you're correct. You are correct. That is a very good point.
But that would help tie up, wouldn't it?
They did used to produce their own badged engines, and then they were using Ford units for a long time. Rebadged Ford units. But I believe now they buy AMG units for their road cars. So actually, Actually,
Yeah, I don't know if they still do, but Merck did own a share in Aston as well, says Manor. So interesting. We should have, because that would help the tie-up with Racing Point, wouldn't it? Because if they're already under that umbrella of Merck, then it makes it much more of an easier integration and a better sell in terms of branding, alignment, merch, everything.
Plus, I want British Racing Green back on the grid.
Yes, I was watching. There's a Twitter account where someone's got an old Caterham, which was obviously the Pretend Lotus rebirth, and they've been rebuilding it on Twitter. And every time I see that, I'm like, I miss green being on the grid. More colours, plus.
No, completely agree. So in that sense, at least, we are in agreement about our driver of our singular drive of the season, which would be Mr. Carlos Sainz. Now, there are some other categories for us to discuss.
Okay.
Some rather interesting ones. Now, I would like to also put forward. There's been driver of the season, but I want to talk fuck up of the season.
I know exactly what I want to go for.
So, there's quite a few, right? There is quite a few.
Love a good fuck up.
Yeah, we need to figure out who we believe failed the hardest in a singular moment. And the nominees from my side, I would like to nominate, first of all, the perennial loser, the loser's loser, Romain Grosjean, for crashing in the pit lane at Silverstone. What a bell end. Now, I appreciate he's been vindicated a little bit, given that what he was saying about the car proved to be true, and it's kept him in a seat next season. But a big reason I'm looking forward to the next season of Drive to Survive is because I want to see that moment play out in that documentary setting. Yeah. What a gibbon. And he's got a history of these bizarre crashes, crashing behind the safety car, crashing on the warm-up lap. But there's something particularly special about doing it in the pit lane. And when you crash in the pit lane, it does tend to sort of stick with you for the rest of your career. One of my most memorable... one of my strongest memories about David Coulthard's career was his short stint at Williams, where he crashed on pit entry.
Yeah.
So, and you probably remember a few years back, I don't know if this was it 07 or 08, where there was a pile-up in the pit lane?
I don't remember that. I remember China 07, Hamilton beaching it on the way into the pits.
No, there was a pile-up at the end of the pit lane.
Oh, Canada 08.
Yeah, that's the one.
Red light.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hamilton again, that was.
That was indeed Hamilton again. Now, Grosjean has dropped the ball several times this season. I think it's fair to say. However, I'm inclined to pick this example in particular because it was just so unnecessary.
In a practice session.
Yeah, like sometimes he fucks it up and you think, okay, he's pushing too hard, he's putting pressure on himself. But leaving the pits in a practice session, yeah, there's just... No, I'm sorry. Just, what a clown. Another nomination from my side would be Nico Hlkenberg, Germany.
Yep.
Now, I don't want to be too harsh on him because a lot of people made a lot of mistakes in that race. The weather caught a lot of people out. It was just one of those Grand Prix. But there's something about Nico's crash at that event that leapt off the page to me. And it wasn't just because he was throwing away what could have been his first and only career podium. It was that, again, it felt very similar actually to the crash he had in Azerbaijan the year before.
Like the gormlessness of it.
Yeah, it just felt gormless. Like he was scratching his nose or something.
Yeah.
It felt like something we do on this podcast.
Yeah.
You know, like you scratch your nose and then you open the MFD and your finger's not where you need it to be to make the corner and oh shit, I'm in the barrier.
Yep.
And so, I wouldn't say he's going to be a donkey of the season necessarily, but for a singular incident, that's definitely one of them. Definitely. Another nomination I would like to add to the pile, Sebastian Vettel at Monza.
Yes.
A very, very, very stupid thing to do. And not even a mistake, just idiocy. And to be clear, when I'm nominating him here, I'm not nominating him for the loss of control of the car that caused him to end up where he was. It was what he did afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't think it's excusable for a driver of so many years' experience, of such high standing, to do what he did.
I completely agree, and so does every single person that's put something in the chat. And it's exactly what I was going to say as well. Second only to, potentially, Lance Stroll for going, "He just come onto the track," and then he does exactly the same fucking thing. It's hilarious. It needed a Benny Hill moment. It was gorgeous and beautiful, and everything that I love about memes and the internet. But yeah, completely agree. Vettel, in what seemed to be an endless downward spiral of utter shitstorm. I think Mana summed it up for me perfectly in the chat. Vettel, or maybe Vettel could be good for our fuck up of the year.
Hold your horses. Please finish your point. But I have more nominees. But please continue.
And the only other thing that I can really think of where there was such fuck-uppery would actually be Monza qualifying, because that was just and the worry with that is that was such a muck-up that I think they're going to do something stupid with the qualifying format, which I think doesn't need changing. For them to
it's the one thing that's not broken.
yeah, and I reckon they'll muck it up because people are stupid. Grosjean got a 5-place grid drop as well, so maybe it was actually Grosjean smacking. I wonder who hit who.
That means I'll start P11. That's something.
Oh, hey, and tyre choice.
Legs 11.
I mind you, it's going to be raining at the start, so
it's going to be raining. So tyre choice means precisely dick.
Boo.
And I'm really bad in the wet in this game.
Dittoge.
No, another nomination I would like to make.
Oh yeah,
Daniel Ricciardo, Baku.
Ah, yeah, the reverse-a-roo.
Yeah, reversing onto a live track. And a street circuit, no less.
Gently removing Kvyat from the equation at the same time.
Yeah, just no. Just no, really. Didn't he also drive over the edge of someone's wing this year? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
I don't know. Oh, it's starting me on dry tyres.
Why?
It must only be, soggy. It's only a soggy biscuit.
But why? Right. Then this tells me it calls for drastic action.
Oh God, are we going for an Esteban strategy? This is what Failbear thinks. It's covering his eyes.
Have faith, Failington Bear. Right. No, we can do this. We can do this, boys. We can do it. We can. Yes.
I'm scared.
Yes, this is excellent.
In the chat, don't got to shoot off. Don't talk to you. Merry Christmas. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you too, Rhino. Lovely to hear from you.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, mate. Thank you for stopping in and keeping us company while we pretend we know what we're doing.
Man has put the monkey with the covered eyes in the chat over the fault of your strategy.
Okay, I am ready to balls this up.
Okay.
You see, my thinking is this. My thinking is this.
Okay.
If I presume that we won't need intermediate tyres,
Yep.
then anyone who changes to them will have to come in twice, and anyone on anything softer than hard is going to be coming in during the rain anyway. I'm going to start on hard compounds and switch to mediums during the dry spell. And yes, I'm denying myself the fastest tyre, but I can make it a solid one-stopper, and hopefully everything's fine forever. If you follow my logic, everything's fine forever.
Everything's fine forever. Oh, that's weird. It won't let me... There we go, now it will. It locked me into a weird tyre thing. Right, okay.
It's weird being behind a Williams. He's also out-qualified a Ferrari.
He's only got one arm.
Oh, I hate these starts. Actually, I didn't do too bad there.
Oh my god, Norris is going to take the lead.
Good lad, good lad.
Oh, not anymore.
Oh, I hate the AI in this game. Just leave my wing alone. Leave it alone. It's done nothing to you. Oh, don't turn in on me, you prick.
Well, now I know why we was doing so well. I felt like I was doing so well in qualifying because I had completely dry wings, and obviously the AI knew it was going to be soggy. I think we're okay.
Yeah, it's okay. My car's feeling like it's been oil wrestling. I'm also very slow because I'm on such hard tyres, but I think it's going to pay off long term.
Skiddy Babe Station graphics.
Now, who else? I did also want to nominate Antonio Giovinazzi for Germany.
Germany?
Great Grand Prix. Yeah, great Grand Prix. And then, do you remember? He was on course for points, and then... It was Germany, wasn't it?
Spa.
Oh, Spa.
Dropped it on the last lap.
Yeah, dropped it on the last lap.
Yeah, that
it's
was
hard
shit.
to be too harsh on him, but again, it is a donkey moment, and I don't want to give him a... I don't want to let him off.
Well, no, I do agree that needs to be raised, because throughout a lot of the early part of the season he was getting into really silly dinks and smacks, and I thought he'd got past it, and then he threw it all away, and it seemed to start like this weird unravelling of shit, weird unravelling of me losing my wing.
No.
It's okay. It's from the lead. Box this lap.
Didn't catch that. Say again.
Oh, you fucking did catch that, Jeff. Little shitbag. No, Norris. Hang on.
Understood. Stopping this lap.
It's okay. I will take over. Yeah, it's...
I was just going to say it was
a very difficult start of the season for sure.
I know, completely agree. And then what it done was it basically kick-started off a weird kind of falling apart of of Alfa Romeo, because then remember Raikkonen went on a bit of a crash spree as well.
Yes, he did. And given the car looked quite good over the course of the early part of the season,
Yeah,
it really was a huge drop-off for them, wasn't it?
absolutely.
I'm having to turn my engine up because these tyres are making me very, very slow. Oh, we've got the Durs. Nothing like a bit of Durs in the rain.
Oh, they've put a new thing on the thing that gives you a green and a red for if you've got the pit limiter on. Sorry, I just genuinely had not noticed that before, if that was there before.
It might not have been, who knows. Then again, we've reached the point where they've stopped patching this game now, haven't we?
Yeah, there was a patch a wee while ago, and then that was it, I think. Just to cover a bug or two. Right. And can I also nominate Robert Kubica for crashing.
For having one arm.
Yeah, and ruining his F1 career for going to rally.
Battery charge is high. Let's increase
No, I was going to say Japan qualifying, but then also Brazil in practice was a weird one. I've not seen anyone bin it at turn 3 in Brazil in the dry, but he'd managed it where he'd got his wheel on a little bit of wetness, because actually that Williams desperately needed to not crash so that it could save some dosh, and he kept on crashing quite a bit. And I guess, actually, my other outside moment is the drain cover in Baku.
Yeah.
Normally they only attack Romain Grosjean around Sepang, but nope, we've...
Yeah, he's got a bit of a history with drain covers as well, hasn't he, actually? I'm sure he'll be in a book somewhere as driver with most drain cover related incidents. I'm really slow in Sector 2. But, not much to be done.
It'll come
So,
to
I mean,
you.
it's actually really hard. There's quite rich pickings there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's more I'm not even thinking of, because I feel like Bottas did something that we've not mocked him for properly. But I think actually I'm just thinking of qualifying in Australia last year.
Yeah, that was shocking.
Ah, shit, I got an illegal overtake on Kubica.
Was that deemed by the Polish fans?
Yeah. And now Ricciardo's damaged my wing.
Good job. That was the fastest lap of the race so far.
Oh yeah, I can see a bit of wing down at turn 1.
Yeah, I was on course to get into the points, but apparently no more. And now my car won't turn. At least I'm holding everyone up so you can catch up.
I know, it's delightful. Thank you very much. I can see people.
Is it target +3?
You're most welcome.
To be fair, it was trying to recommend me a 3-stop strategy, so I don't think...
But out of all that, who is the biggest twat of the year?
It's got to be Vettel for me. It has to be Vettel. I can't think of anyone else who is... I can't think of, outside of perhaps just Jacques Villeneuve speaking, someone having such a dramatic fall from dizzying heights.
Yeah, true actually, and it took him quite a while to recover from it as a singular event. It did have a lasting impact on a lot of his season, I felt. That and the whole Charles Leclerc thing. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, obviously a large part of me wants to give it to Grosjean.
Rosberg, yeah.
Rosberg is Vettel's career over. But yeah, I mean, it is actually kind of hard to see past Vettel with my objective glasses on, because, let's be totally frank, you kind of expect Grosjean to fuck up, but for Vettel to drop the ball in such a way as well, such a dangerous way, you kind of have to say, yeah, all right, fair's fair. It's a fair cop, governor. It has to go to Vettel, doesn't it? Which is odd, because it does feel odd giving someone a wanker award when they have had one or two quite good drives. I mean, nothing stellar, but honourable mention in that category though, William Storey, CEO of Rich Energy, because so much has happened at the end of the season that it's kind of easy to forget that whole saga.
Have you seen, though, that he still is tweeting absolute bollocks?
I haven't, to be honest. I kind of tuned him out.
It's delightful.
What's he on about now? Because he at one point he was claiming he had a deal with McLaren, right?
I've just fucked my wing up again. Yes, he'd... he was basically picturing forklift trucks, and then kind of saying about how, oh no, Magnussen's just pushed me round. Damn you, K-Mags. I think it was because they were running or had finished behind a Williams in Mexico or somewhere like that. Oh no.
Thanks for that, Kubica.
Where are you?
He just nudged me into the wall. Confirm change. You know when they pull alongside you and then just like tap the back of your car?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he's done. What a twat.
Russell.
Looks like our team's double boxing.
I'll go around again.
Oh no, don't. We're far enough apart that it should be fine.
Are you changing a wing though?
Yeah.
That's okay, I'll go around again.
Yeah, well that's my race fucked.
I don't know, there's
yours.
plenty of people in. There is so much front wing down at turn 1.
If that horse gets out before me, I'm going to be pissed. No, we're alright. We're sort of alright. Okay, so we're in recovery mode.
We got
Now, before
this.
I go on any further, are there any categories that you would like to submit for consideration?
Not that I can think. Rookie of the Year? Can I just say how amazing the Rookie of the Year video on the F1 YouTube channel is?
It is. They've done a really good job this year, actually, with all the social media content and the behind the scenes and getting you familiar with the drivers. And I think actually having a group of rookies that all know and like each other has helped.
Absolutely. More of that, please.
But yeah, why don't we? Rookie of the Year. Problem is, for me, it's a very easy decision. Because we only had 3 rookies this year, right?
Yep, and we've only got 1 next year.
Yeah. We have Alexander Albon, of course, George Russell, and Lando Norris.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me wants to give it to George Russell simply because, you know, he's hung in there like a champ and he hasn't been a whiny dick.
Yeah.
like that's what I like. He hasn't been. It would be so easy for him to just whine, complain, and go full pull the rester on it, but he hasn't. He's stayed very, very positive, and he's done what's been needed of him, sometimes more.
Yep.
And I don't think it's damaging his career as much as it might have done for other rookies.
Agree.
Because of it.
Particularly when he gets straight in the Mercedes in the test and puts it fastest. And it's just a nice, timely reminder that he is about and we'll have him.
Yeah. No, completely agree. Completely agree. Lando Norris, I mean, it's not like we've had a bad rookie this year, to be honest, because I think Lando Norris has done a very good job. He's been very self-critical. He hasn't matched Sainz, but honestly, quelle surprise, right? I think the chances of him matching Sainz are exponentially greater next year.
Yep.
But, you know, rookie year, no one's really expecting him to be beating an experienced teammate. But yeah, generally a breath of fresh air. Very likeable guy. He and Carlos Sainz being bestest best buds in the world has been the highlight of social media for me all year.
Yes.
The fact is, they seem inseparable as well. Like if you actually follow them closely on social media, all their stories are just them together playing golf round each other's houses. Like,
Yep.
So it seems like a legit thing, not just for the camera, which I like.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Alex Albon, a guy who was quite literally on the F1 scrap heap 14 months ago, was extricated out of a contract with Nissan for Formula E, put in a Toro Rosso drive that everyone thought was going nowhere, to then pick up the ball that Pierre Gasly had dropped, as if his name was Pierre Butterfingers, and then make the touchdown. He picked up the ball, he ran with it, and he was the Autosport Awards Rookie of the Year. I think he was Rookie of the Year for some other awards as well. And he's my Rookie of the Year. But I mean, I don't want to imply that it was an easy decision, right? Because he's now arguably the most high profile of the three. So again, it feels kind of like giving Carlos Sainz the Driver of the Season award. It feels almost like it's the obvious choice. But I don't want to imply it wasn't close, or that people like George Russell or Lando Norris wouldn't have won it in any other circumstances. It's just that we had a crop of very deserving, very talented rookies who didn't really make mistakes.
No, I would argue. I would argue. I think we're going to have a difference of opinion.
Oh, good.
I'm going to give it to Norris.
Now, I'm interested. Why is that? Because for me, Norris has done a great job, but he's been far more up and down than the other two.
I would say that Albon did make quite a lot of mistakes. Admittedly, he was able to then recover from them and do very well. But I think maybe my opinion of Norris is different, because for me, my driver of the season is Carlos Sainz. And then to have a rookie be matching him as close, particularly in qualifying, less so over longer race distances, and that's much more around tyre management rather than actual pace. I think because I put Carlos Sainz's season at such a high pedestal, the fact that he is so close for a rookie kind of makes me go, he's deserving.
Do you know, you've made an argument there that I can't really find any fault with.
But it's extremely close, and I think all three are deserving. And
Yeah.
It would have been a crime if any of those three aren't on the grid in 2020. So, yeah, I can't remember having a crop of new people come in that have just immediately slotted into the sport, and I feel like they're all regulars that will be around forever. Well, not forever, but for a long time.
No, I agree. It feels like all of them actually are at the start of a long career.
Yes.
And I agree with you. I don't remember a crop of such promising rookies ever. And not just promising, but competent.
Yep.
I don't remember any of them doing anything like truly stupid. And George Russell, his DNF only came because of a Romain Grosjean related incident, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm excited to see what George Russell can do in a car that isn't a Williams.
Let's agree.
Put it that way.
My only and the reason why I wouldn't give it to George Russell, and I'd noticed it, but it was interesting that they picked it out. Actually, I can't remember which one picked it out. I think it was Norris more than Albon in their little video. Is he's starting P19 and he's only made up 2 good places over the year. And if you watch actually, Kubica's opening laps are really, really like something quite interesting and special. And he's almost always gotten ahead of Russell off the line, and then Russell has to spend the first 10 laps trying to get back past, and then they're off the back of the pace anyway. And I think he needs to sort out his starts for him, and it's good that he's doing that kind of at the back of the grid where it doesn't matter, because actually I think if he was higher up the grid, those starts would have been called out by now. The rest of him perfectly fine.
That's a good point actually. But I mean, a lot of drivers do have trouble with their starts in these cars.
I'm going to shush because I'm
having to brake really early because I don't go into the back of Giovinazzi. I've cut that corner as well. Go on, you've got me. We were gonna take each other out. I could feel it coming. go and get him and his stupid hair.
Oh, I can't. There's a yellow flag. Oh, Verstappen's out.
Oh, good.
Green flag.
Ah!
It's coming in anyway. So
Yeah,
sweet.
and that's it threw me off on my on my braking. I was like, I don't know. This is going to be a really weird race to work out where we're going to be at the end.
Yeah, because we still have to stop again.
Yeah, but I think so do all of these.
Well, I think in general everyone's on 3 stops, aren't they?
Yeah, 2 or 3. It would depend.
Excess fuel layers down. Set the fuel
Because I know there's some people aside from you that have already stopped twice. At least it means I get to use the softs at some point.
Yes.
I'm going to be slow at the end of the Grand Prix though, because it's going to start raining again. Like, I'm feeling a lot more comfortable with the car now, but only because the rain stopped and I'm not really close to other cars.
Uh-huh. Ooh, sirens.
Yeah, you made a very compelling case there. I'm still going to stick with Albon just because it's such a fairy tale. What's that yellow flag for?
Verstappen, but it's gone now.
What's my new strategy option?
One in the pits.
Confirm change.
gap to car in front is 1.6.
You are on fire, mate. Fastest laps all over the shop.
Boop. Love me some Canada. What about most improved? Oh no! I've already answered myself. I was going to say most improved team, or what about most improved driver? I suppose they kind of end up looking potentially the same. I don't know.
Well, actually, I did have a most improved driver
Oh,
category.
oh, sorry, I didn't realise you had categories. Go for it. Go for it. So
Yeah,
organised today. I'm impressed.
Yeah, well, it's just normally our end of season awards degenerate into a fucking incomprehensible mess. So I thought, given we've been doing it 10 years now, maybe it's time to write something down. No, what I have in mind was definitely a most improved driver award. The problem is that I found it very hard to populate it. Because the standout drivers for me have been ones that have either already always been good and just a bit underrated, or they're rookies. So you can't really put them down as having improved. Now, I would like to add, though, Max Verstappen.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't think he's any faster than he was, but he's definitely more level-headed, and his racecraft and maturity have come along vastly. And he's definitely a candidate for driver of the season for me. Because, yeah, he's just such a more rounded race driver than he was.
Agree.
So definitely he's improved, in my mind, in some measurable way. Antonio Giovinazzi, but again, it's his first full season, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to say. And you know, with him, it's more an improvement over the course of a season rather than
Yes.
season over season. God, I hate it when I'm following 2 cars because you can't get round them, and you just have to wait for one to be clearly faster than the other so you can sneak in between them. Fuck off. Move. You're just cutting through the field, man. Like, you're far more confident overtaking than I am.
0.5 seconds.
It's I think yeah, it's do or die.
So yeah, I don't really know who else I could put into that category. Because I don't really feel Lance Stroll's improved. I don't think Perez improved. I don't think Ricciardo or Hulk improved. Vettel definitely didn't improve. I mean,
Kvyat?
Daniel Kvyat, yeah. Daniel Kvyat, yeah. But also, you know, he's not having a mental breakdown anymore. I don't think that's necessarily, on that basis alone, a genuine improvement. It's more like a change in circumstances.
The track is clear. Green flag. We're leading our team.
Oh, green flag.
9 seconds.
Yeah, I took Lance Stroll out
Okay.
by trying to sneak between him. I did your do or die thing, and I got between him and Bottas, and he just didn't want to cede the position. So we had a frank discussion. A heated exchange of opinions, some robust debate, and then he decided it would be better if he was nose first in the wall.
I'm on lap 19, Manor. Sorry, I was just trying to work it out myself. He's going, I can't tell what lap you're on because Failington Bear is in the way. And I was like, I know, because I can't see the fucking thing either, but Bear is keeping me happy.
So actually, yeah, I mean, I think on balance we have to give it to Daniel Kvyat, don't we?
And I would argue, so yeah, I think actually getting a hold of your mental fragility is actually a good thing to shout out about, because how much of this sport is around being able to keep your mental ability sorted. Because I think that's one of the reasons why Vettel has fallen apart, is because Leclerc has ruined his. It's why Bottas had to go away and do Bottas 2.0, which, to be fair, feels like he wants to become a new Terminator franchise film, where you promise everything for an amazing trailer and then deliver like a damp squib of things that we wished we'd had but a bit more beefier. It's an interesting one. So yeah, I'm not really sure. Like, it translates to on-track performance, obviously, and what's also interesting is that he became a dad, and sometimes that could actually be seen as a that's going to slow you down. I can't remember who said it, but it was basically as soon as you get a girlfriend, that loses you 3/10.
Well, actually, several drivers have said that. Like, as soon as you get a girlfriend, you lose like 2-3 off your lap times. And then I think actually it was Sebastian Vettel who said becoming a father slowed him down, because he said when you know you've got a small child, like, there's gaps you won't go for anymore and moves you won't make. But you know, all things considered, in the great scheme of things, I think that's probably the better attitude to take.
Yeah.
Just, you know, lose a few tenths and then have a long and happy life with your significant other and child. I have caught up to the back of Leclerc and Sainz, and they're fighting each other, which makes me scared to try and get past them.
Sainz thwonked me at the final chicane when I overtook him, but we survived just about.
I am faster than all these bitches.
I think Perez is leading. Yeah, he is. It's Perez, Norris, Vettel, me, Hamilton all together, and we're about to lap Stroll.
I love this game. I do love this game.
We're getting past time now.
Right, let me turn my engine up and see if I can't get past any of these fools.
Perez
Plus
pits.
some caps.
Okay. Hamilton pits.
Oh god, that's another place I'm going to make up then. Oh! I just got a 3-second time penalty because people pulling into the pits made me have to cut the corner. But I was distracted by Leclerc and Sainz going into the pits side by side.
Ooh, juice.
That's Norris. A spicy meatball.
Norris leads. Oh, I've lost my tyres. It's time for the airs and the fuel mix to make the difference. But my grip no longer can.
Yeah, my tyres are feeling a little less sexy than they were. Well, another category I had, and I'm actually looking forward to this one a little bit. Best number 2 driver of the season.
Ooh.
Who's the one who's played the team game the most consistently and reliably with minimal fuss and done what's required? Now, you're probably thinking, well, obviously, it's Bottas. But I'm not necessarily sure that it is. Now, clearly, it's not Leclerc or Vettel.
No.
So I would like to put forth, first of all, Lando Norris.
Yes.
He's been quite happy to accept a second string role for the moment, at least. I don't think that will forever remain the case.
Agree.
And he's just played the team game quite well and just focused on trying to improve his own driving, trying to have a clean rookie season.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, I actually had this conversation with someone at work who suggested Alex Albon for this, but Albon was not in a position to challenge Verstappen, so I don't think it really counts.
Completely agree. And I'm assuming that all of the penalties that he took for engine things were not necessarily for upgrades and stuff. It was just they needed to do that. I don't know. So no, I wouldn't agree with that one either.
I've got a thought in my brain box.
Ooh.
I might be able to make these tyres finish to the end of the Grand Prix.
15 minutes time, 15 minutes. Dry seem like the fastest tyre at the moment.
Ooh. I'm going to pit again.
I pitted on lap 7 for mediums.
Yeah.
This lap, so push.
My mediums are now about 40% worn on one side. It'd be tight. It'd be very, very tight. But I think the numbers suggest that I could actually finish the race on between 70 and 80% wear.
15 minutes time. Dry seem like the best tyre.
Because we have, call it 10 laps to go. And I'm just wondering now, will I be so slow that I'll get monstered at the end?
Speed limit line as you approach, and make sure you
Or
have speed.
is it better to come in and put on the fresh softs and try and fight my way back up to where I am? Because I'm on a podium position, which I haven't been in for a long time.
Well, I am pitting, and I'm going into softs. And I'm doing that now.
While you're pitting then, would you like to take over the discussion and tell me if you can think of any drivers you think qualify as a great number 2?
I can't really, but it's for me. Norris feels quite quite a good one to go for because of how the two. Oh my God! There's 3 cars all going. It's going to be 4. Well, fuck my duck. Oh, this is going to
What's
be
happened?
horrific. How we've come out of that, I have no idea.
But you
so
see, this is why I don't want to pit. I don't want that to happen to me.
So Norris, Hamilton, Perez, 3 going into each other as we go into turn 1. Me trundling out the pits makes it 4 wide. I'll tell you what, you need to see that on a replay. You could probably hear my sphincter closing in the background. Oh, okay. All right, I'm back with it. I can't think of anything, and I think actually it's one of the good things of this season is that there were rare moments where we've just done a Zonta.
Uh-oh. Never go full Zonta.
Hamilton and myself over side of a Norris, but I didn't do the full Hakkinen move, sadly. It's interesting because I would argue that everyone was a clear defined 1 or 2, and there was only a couple of teams where it was an interchangeable number one and that they played the game with it, because Stroll in general wasn't there to really play around with Perez because he qualifies too far behind. Kubica's just not at the speed of Russell. And when he was ahead, he wouldn't... The Williamses actually had some proper good scrapperoos trying to get Russell back through again. So I'd argue that wasn't like a number one, number two driver either. The Toro Rossos were never really in the same place together, so that didn't really have a thing. I don't know.
I've just got a question. Why don't we consider Charles? I wouldn't consider Charles because I don't feel like he was a number two.
No, exactly. He was given that position.
He sort of became the de facto number one for me as the season progressed.
Yeah, and he earned that by out driving and not being the number two. And I don't think any other teams were really there. The other one potentially would be Giovinazzi, but he was there on Raikkonen's pace, but always a couple of seconds behind. But they were never in situations where I felt like he was having Raikkonen's back, if that makes sense. It's just he was sat behind him. Raikkonen's second in this race, by the way.
So I think we have decided then that our number two driver of the season, Mr. Lando Norris.
Agreed.
Moving on, since we're down to our last few laps, we're on to the biggies now.
Okay.
Team of the season. Now, this is a bit more complicated because here we've got to consider the performance of both drivers, the performance of the team itself versus expectations, the politics inside the team, the power unit, reliability, all of those factors.
Sorry.
And this is a two-factor award because, of course, with best team of the season comes worst team of the season. We'll start with the worst, I would suggest. And for me, there's only really 3 nominations.
Yep. I can't think of 2 actually. Well, no, maybe 3, depending if we're marking it based on where we thought and where their potential was.
So, for me, obviously Williams.
Absolutely.
A dire car, a bizarre choice of second driver. A very weird way of handling the season politically and from a public relations standpoint. And just never really seeming to find their feet. I mean, they had the reliability on the car, which is good. And it's not like there was no improvement over the course of the season, but they just never really seemed to figure things out. That left me feeling very disappointed. But I also see it as a learning season for them more than anything, and hopefully things improve next year, or at least with the formula change.
Yeah.
It's telling me to stop for the Inters soon.
Yep, I just had the same message.
I might. I actually might. Because this is not feeling very good.
I think we're right on the cusp, yeah.
Now, also, the other nominee, of course, would be Haas. For not building their own car, not knowing how to build someone else's car, and for finding out over the course of the season that they're... I'm annoyed about this.
Theirs is offline.
And for taking a whole season to learn that actually their best car was the one they had in Melbourne.
Yes.
Like, you know that meme where, I don't know, it's like a baby animal or something, and they go, oh, and they go, oh no, it's a retard. It kind of feels like that.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree with Haas. Oh, I missed the pit lane. I have to go round again.
You've gone round again?
Yeah, I missed the pit lane.
Oh, shit. Haas just totally dropped the ball. And then I'd like to, and I hate myself for putting this because they're my favourite team, but Alfa Romeo. Sauber. The reason I'm nominating them is because they started so well. It's not like Haas where the car was just shit.
Yeah.
They started really well and balked it.
No development, was there?
Yeah, and some people, when I was discussing this at work, people were saying that Racing Point belong in this category too, but I don't blame them because it's obvious that they were going to suffer from all the uncertainty around the team last year. So that kind of earns them a pass, and although they had a very poor 3/4 of the season, I think they ended it quite strongly considering everything.
Yeah, that 4-5 I think saved their bacon somewhat at Brazil.
Exactly. So yeah, it's really hard to say because they're all crap in their own way, but it's hard to distinguish which one is the most inexcusably crap. And for me, that's what saves Williams from getting my vote.
Mm-hmm.
Because Williams just got it wrong. Simple as that. They got it wrong, and they just had to live with the consequences. So that, for me, leaves it between Haas and Sauber. And I can't really distinguish between them because Haas they went full Mr. Magoo, just stumbling around in the dark, going, "Oh, how do I build a car?" There's something almost worse about Alfa Romeo having, a solid lead driver, a solid car, and then just fucking it up. I'm curious what your take is.
Mano in the chat agrees with your assessment, essentially, of McLaren best, and then it was Williams or Alpha. I didn't mean to do that.
Oh, you've taken my wing off, you... Oh,
I'm really sorry.
Swine. You blackguard. You blackguard.
I wasn't actually meaning to overtake. I'm really sorry.
And now I can't stop. And now Norris is beating me. You devil. You gallivant.
I'm sorry. How very Ferrari of us.
I don't know now if I want to come in and change my wing or not. Because I'm going to lose my points. I think I'm going to stay out and risk it for the proverbial biscuit. Yeah, so it's kind of your vote here, Si, that's going to swing it.
I want to go for Haas as the worst team. And it's because of... so there's something... And I said this last year, is that Williams have stayed humble in their shitness. And McLaren getting better gives me mild hope for Williams. I think the issue that I've got with Williams is I don't understand how horrific... mistakes were made in 2018, which basically writ off their 2019. And that's where I'm going for the cut and divide, because actually if you look at how they were able to keep pace and get things back going again, like if you look at their delta times, they actually had caught back up again, like front to back of the field type thing, and showed that they could develop a car somewhat throughout the season, and that kind of gives me a little bit of hope. Admittedly, that is like silver lining on a shit sandwich. Ooh, in the wall. Sorry. This has all gone a bit leery for me. The thing that is utterly inexcusable about Haas is that they just did not get anywhere, and I still feel like they've got nowhere. And I don't know how they can maybe I can't see how 2020 can be any better for them, because fundamentally I still don't think they have a clue what the change and the problems were. So why would you expect them to be any better? And all of that resource, all of that pool of knowledge behind them, The only person that was saying something that actually rung true is the one person they don't trust because he can't drive himself out of a paper bag. K-Mag has a death wish. As much as I really like him as a person and as a driver, I find him very entertaining to watch. That's not what they need to consolidate and get points in. It's just horrible. Oh, there's yellow flags again.
Vettel is out of the session.
Oh, he's the leader.
That gives me another... You're on the podium already, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm second.
You disappeared off into the sunset.
I'm battling with Hamilton now for the win again.
Okay, clear.
You've had such stellar pace here. I'm very impressed, Old Bean.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
Even in the changeable conditions, you've been right on it. It's very cool.
I know Hamilton is on intermediates, but his tyres are still got the yellow rims on.
Yeah, I can believe that. Carlos Sainz occasionally has my helmet.
Thieving
Just
little
for fun.
Spaniard.
Just for funsies. So that brings us on, I suppose, because I'm gonna second you. I think I'm gonna have to agree. It's oh no! What have you done?
Hamilton put me in the wall.
No.
I'd gone deep and then I tried to sweep back round and he just gently nudged me off into the spin and then it wasn't fine in reverse. So
With his stupid dreadlocks. Did you see him dressed like a Thunderbird the other day?
Oh, for the awards, yes.
He really did look like a Thunderbird. Why can't that man wear anything normal?
I genuinely don't know.
But I'm going to have to agree with you. I think we have to put it down to Haas. Just because it was a comprehensive level of incompetency.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us on for the last two laps.
Okay.
Or last lap. For driver of the season. And there's a lot of nominees here.
There is.
So the podcast is probably going to run a little long. So obviously, I think you can't really build this list without putting the champion on, because I think
Agree.
Lewis Hamilton has been in the form of his life over the last few years. Of course, he went very much off the boil once the championship was won, and that's always how he is.
Although it's the first... Is it the first year that he's won after the championship, or did he do that last year? Because I've got it in my head.
Well, he doesn't normally win after...
Yeah.
He doesn't normally win after he's been declared champion. So, who even knows? Oh, I was too late on the brakes. God damn it. Max Verstappen for single-handedly being Mr. Red Bull. Oh, gone far too deep. You're going to get me. You're going to get me.
I had to go very tight. That's what
Yeah,
you
you've
said.
got me. You've just had the legs on me all the way through this this Grand Prix. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Verstappen's he's also been in the form of his life.
Yep.
Why did I get a time penalty for that? I didn't even cross the white line. You would have beaten me anyway, because I had a time penalty.
I've got a 3-second one as well.
I've got 6, that's nothing. Obviously, Charles Leclerc as well. Phenomenal first season at Ferrari. Wins, multiple wins, multiple pole positions. Win at Monza, which is a big deal for any Ferrari driver. His Bahrain drive was insane. What is going on that podium?
I don't know, I'm loving it though.
Then, of course, we have to, I think, consider Alex Albon in that mix as well, just for how his season has just been on a crazy upward trajectory.
Yep.
Carlos Sainz for being just insanely good in that McLaren and constantly bringing it home. P4, P5, 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 P5. Podium.
Yes.
Just phenomenal season for him. A career-defining season so far. Other than that, I'm finding it hard to really pick anyone out because that little cohort of drivers has been so far and above the others. And I actually find it hard to pick a winner. But it's not Lewis Hamilton because he has stupid dreadlocks and I hate him. No, genuinely, it's not Lewis Hamilton just because I think a lot of it is kind of to be expected from him and that package, and he's so well integrated into that team that it doesn't diminish his achievements over his career. Mm-hmm. He may very well go down as the greatest of all time, and deservedly so, but I think it's just another year of business as usual, and that makes it hard to award him Driver of the Year.
Yeah.
And for me, I think distinguishing between Verstappen, Sainz and Leclerc is incredibly difficult for different reasons, because Verstappen's kind of had a Sainz season, in a sense, that he's always outdriven the car and been there consistently.
Yep. Time
after time after time after time. And then, if you consider Carlos Sainz, it's very much the same story, and it's hard to distinguish which one's more impressive, right? Because for McLaren, it was a totally unexpected turnaround. With Red Bull, it's with an engine that everyone thought would need years of development to get to where it is. Mm-hmm. And then with Charles Leclerc, it was just unexpected that it would be such a complete performance, a very well-rounded performance with so many wins to his name, that I find it very, very difficult. And I want to hear from chat on both channels here about who they would think is their driver of the season, because that's the one I want to decide for sure.
So Manners have put in the chat, Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton, Sainz, one of those four, but don't know how to separate them because it's all for different reasons. So very similar to yourself. From myself, just whilst if anyone else wants to type in the chat what they think, I kind of agree that those are the four standouts. I agree completely with what you're saying about how it's business as usual for Hamilton. I think it's very difficult to understand how good Hamilton is until he's gone. Because of that. It reminds me of when Schumacher used to get all of those championships back to back, and we were starting to have it with Vettel as well, is that each time you continue to win consecutively, we know it takes more. We know it takes more to keep that hunger going and keep everything aligned, because I always remember, and on Mika Hakkonen's Beyond the Grid episode, he basically said that after winning twice in a row, he was mentally checked out and done and knackered and knew he couldn't sustain it for a third year in a row. He said to Coulthard, he was like, your turn now, mate, I'm knackered. And then in 2 years he was gone because he'd had enough and the hunger wasn't there. So there's something to be said for that for Hamilton. For me, I'm going to go with Max Verstappen as my driver of the year. And it's because of the sheer gap that he had over first Gasly, but then I still think actually Albon.
He did, yeah.
And it was around qualifying, but then also like the consistency of what he'd done lap after lap, race after race, almost like machine-driven Red Bull racing. And it was a pleasure to watch because I know we'd been big critics of him before, and he had that switch last year where after that shocking start of the year it started to click and go into place. And for him to sustain that throughout an entire year, it just makes me crave that Red Bull come in kicking and screaming in 2020, and they're more likely to do so because there's no changes to anything coming through, because he will be at that level from the beginning. Because I think early on in the season with Red Bull, where they were the third best team, he was delivering that kind of level of drive, but you'd only see him still in like fourth or fifth place, because him clinging on to the coattails of Ferrari and Mercedes meant that he was performing well above expectation, but you wouldn't necessarily get to see all of the nitty-gritty driving that he was doing. Whereas at the end of the year, you kind of get to revel in that a bit more. And I think that would help show stuff further. I think from Sainz's perspective, it's much more around being able to deliver and build the team around something which I feel like Ricciardo should have been doing Renault, maybe a bit
Yeah.
earlier. Whereas Sainz was in there early on. I know they'd had chats for a long time beforehand, and there was clearly a mutual connection there. And it makes me excited to see where that goes, because that's definitely building a unit of love and bromance for the future that kind of descends out from the drivers down. And Leclerc, just because those are two ginormous bollocks, and it excites me to see where he goes. So no, I think everyone's right with the four that they're picking. Amanda's right and you was right. Just it's different reasons as to why they are, and it means that F1 is in very, very good hands for the future.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely it's definitely what I mean. We were always very critical of Verstappen because this is exactly the kind of driver that we knew he could be.
Yes,
and I know we got a lot of crap from people for being very harsh on Verstappen, but it's because he needed to get to this place. He needed to cool his head because he had the speed. That's the thing that you can't teach.
yes.
You know, either you've got the raw talent, the raw pace, or you don't. So all he had to do was sand off the edges, and look what happens. Look what happens. Sensational. My vote. Yeah, I don't know. In the chat, I've got I vote for Charles Leclerc to win over Vettel in his first season of being in a dominant team. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree with that. Like he, and you and I, Simon, had the opinion that this could happen, but it was never a guarantee for him to come in and very firmly. Not arrogantly, but firmly and confidently stamp himself into that team and say, you know, in the first half of the season, he did yield to team orders occasionally, but then just over the years, just like, no, I'm faster, I'm doing it. And he did. And he's definitely driver of the year material.
Agree.
But
I also really liked the
way.
way how he articulated himself on the radio as well, because of how he would say, okay, I'm doing it for the team, but I am faster, but I'm doing it for the team. Because you'd be like, okay, you don't need to go. He'd have probably a very good political future if he wanted to. But I liked that because it made him human, and he rode the waves of ups and downs with the team.
And then Sainz, as you say, it's another case like with Verstappen. This is the driver that I always knew he could be.
Yep.
And it was the driver that actually he was closer to being than Verstappen was. And I think that's why I have to agree with you and give it to Verstappen, although in my heart I want to give it to Sainz.
Oh.
It's because Verstappen had to go further to get here. Because Sainz already generally had the right attitude, and he was doing the same sort of job at Toro Rosso. He did the same sort of job at Renault, and then at McLaren he's just been the factor that made the difference. And he's been allowed to show what he can do as a true leader. So he's definitely deserving, but on balance, I have to go with you on it being Verstappen this year. Let's see what Failington. Failington votes for Valtteri Bottas because he just wants to give him a big hug.
Oh, don't do that, because otherwise Bottas 3.0 won't arrive for 2020 for us to all be slightly underwhelmed again.
Yeah, Failington thinks that Bottas has what looks like a very cuddly but not scratchy beard and sad eyes. And obviously he's getting divorced. So Failington just, wants to spread the love. Last comment before we wrap out, though. I do want to, conversely to driver of the season, I do want to talk very quickly about Daniel Ricciardo, because I'm worried about Danny Rick. Because just as Carlos Sainz has stepped in at McLaren and shown that he can make a difference and he can be the leader and he can be the driver that everyone rallies round, I kind of expected Ricciardo to do the same at Renault, and he just sort of hasn't.
No.
He's kind of been in his own world a little bit, hasn't he? Yep. Just making jokes and, whatever.
Just chilling. His Beyond the Grid episode is actually very interesting to talk about, because and he specifically mentions a race this year where he was running around in like 14th or 15th place, and he was thinking, why the fuck am I here? And he said, but actually, what it done was it made him kind of reaffirm about how desperate and keen and motivated he is to try and build everything around to get himself back up to the podiums and that kind of stuff for where he is. And it kind of has given him a new lease of aggression and vigour, I guess, to pull himself back up again. But I think the problem with Renault is that there's so many different things in play that I think are bigger than Ricciardo that need addressing before that team can move forward. And it'll be interesting to see how Ocon and him gel next year, because that'll be fiery and interesting. Because something tells me that they would dearly love the Frenchman to be on top if possible. And I think Ricciardo could quite easily talk himself out of that drive should a Mercedes or Ferrari drive become available if someone's not about for 2021. And then suddenly that project will be done and dusted. It's interesting though, because he needs
Ricciardo
to be able...
has to tread carefully though, in my opinion.
Agree, because he needs to keep doing in the performances that show that he is world class, but he also needs to not burn bridges wherever possible. And he was saying that he's still friends with everyone at Red Bull and so on and so forth. I don't ever see him going back, but he needs to make sure that he doesn't get marked as a person that just kind of like drops and runs from project to project, because otherwise you have a Nando on your hands.
Indeed. So, that was our season in review, and we actually reviewed it properly. I felt.
I know.
We did quite good.
I know. Competent at last.
So your 2019 winners, your driver of the season, Max Verstappen. Donkey of the year, Sebastian Vettel.
Yep.
Race of the season, Germany. And team of the year, I believe we gave to McLaren, did we not?
Yes.
So there you go. Thank you everyone for joining and for your comments. It's very cool to bounce ideas between ourselves and you guys. I hope you enjoyed our race, where we got our first double points for quite a while.
Yes.
We also picked up some penalties, but we did finish in the points. That's key. Simon, hell of a race from you. Such great pace all the way through.
Should have been a win.
I only had pace in Q1 and then it disappeared, and I'm still struggling in changeable conditions, but I did better here than I have at any other point in the season. I'm hoping this is when my season turns around though, because I'm like 60 points behind you at the moment, and that is unacceptable.
Disgusting.
We will see you all in maybe a little over 2 weeks, because it's Christmas New Year time, but hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and a very happy New Year. Best wishes from both of us. Absolutely. And we will be back maybe 3 weeks, and then it's not actually far from the cars being unveiled for next season, because lest we forget, the season kicks off in March. Indeed.
One of the latest finishes of the year means that we are much closer to a season opener. So thank you very much everyone. Thank you very much, Mana, for wishing us a great Christmas. Same to you, same to Rhino, same to everyone else that joins. We know our regulars, we're not always about on a Saturday. Really appreciate it. Happy Crimbo. I'll be streaming in between the meantime as well. No doubt Mr. Zero will be doing some bits and bobs on his Twitch channel too. So
I'll be trying to.
Catch you later. Bye.
Bye.
Oh.
Just realised I can't stop the stream at the same time as waving.
Exactly the same problem. Alleviated bears.